Right now, Texas Senate toss-up. Analysts shift the race between Democrat James Talarico and Republican Ken Paxton to toss-up status. What the candidates are saying about each other on social media. Big Bend backlash. The Trump administration pauses construction in Big Bend National Park. We hear from one sheriff in the area on what's next. And data center pushback. Texans express their concerns over data centers to state lawmakers, as Governor Abbott tells me his plan to pause construction is working. Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas starts now. Hello and welcome to Eye on Politics. Hope you're having a great weekend. We're going to begin with the Texas Senate race. For weeks now, we've told you just how tight the polls are, and perhaps as a reflection of that, analysts have shifted the race. The highly regarded Cook Political Report has moved the contest between Republican Ken Paxton and Democrat James Talarico from lean Republican to toss-up. The latest Real Clear Politics average of polls between June 3rd and August 10th shows Talarico ahead of Paxton by 1.2 percentage points, 46 to 44.8%. In a post on X, Paxton told followers, quote, "We need your help," urging people to go to his website, quote, "to defeat socialist James Talarico and save Texas." In a post on X earlier last week, Talarico's campaign commented after Fox News shifted the race to a toss-up. We're a couple of weeks away from Labor Day weekend, when analysts say people typically start to focus on the election. Early voting starts about 2 months from now. So what are Talarico and Paxton saying about each other on social media and on air? Talarico has been spending millions of dollars running ads on TV for weeks now, and the Austin state lawmaker has been introducing himself. His latest ad features his grandfather, a Baptist preacher, and them sitting on a front porch and talk about God and Talarico's position on affordability. On social media, Talarico blasts Paxton on affordability, citing a recent report showing the Attorney General owns 15 homes worth $9 million while on a government salary of $153,000. Also on X, Talarico is showing a video of Paxton taking someone else's $1,000 pen from the Collin County Courthouse 14 years ago. Paxton returned it after being questioned about it and said it was a mistake, while Talarico accused Paxton of stealing it. The pen's owner endorsed Talarico. Paxton has not been airing ads on TV, but has said that will change once he raises more money. On X, though, Paxton says Talarico is willing to sacrifice children at the altar of the trans movement, calling him, quote, "too weird and too radical for Texas." The Paxton campaign is also criticizing Talarico for his vote as a state lawmaker against keeping men out of girls' sports. And Paxton has also slammed Talarico, accusing him of trying to end the state's oil and gas industry that he says generates $385 billion into the state's economy. In 2021, state records show Talarico filed a bill that would have required statewide greenhouse gas emissions to be reduced to 50% below the 1990 levels by 2030 and to 90% below the 1990 level by 2050. That bill died in committee. I spoke with Texas Woman's University political science professor Parker Hevron about the candidates' messaging and the strategies both candidates are using in the race.
Paxton, right now, to me at least, is running a race that he appears to have run before, which is one that at the end of the day appeals to Republican primary voters in Texas. And Texas is a Republican-leaning state. Republicans have the advantage, of course, here in terms of numbers and have for a long time. And so in these races in Texas, when Republicans are able to drive that turnout in the Republican primary, that has been enough from like a political communication standpoint for them to win races. The underlying numbers for Paxton in this race are not nearly as favorable as they have been in previous races that he's run, nor are they as favorable as they were for Ted Cruz at this point in 2018. He obviously has pretty high underlying negative perceptions around the state. But at the same time, we see on the ground, he's had recent rallies, not only in the Metroplex, but down in Central Texas and San Antonio, where lines have gone around the block, right? And they've had to shut down, allowing people into restaurants and the spaces in which he's holding these rallies because there's been too many people there. So whether that message that he's delivering is resonating beyond the Republican primary base, I think is going to be kind of the story of this campaign. And it may be, of course, that Texas being what it is, that Republican base is enough to push him to victory in November. But I think it's far from certain that that's the case, especially we haven't even talked about kind of national headwinds at the moment, which seem to be pushing up against Republican electoral success in November.
We keep hearing from Republicans that people will come back, they'll come home for the November election. And Governor Abbott's going to be advertising. Lieutenant Governor is going to be advertising. Paxton said he's going to be advertising once he raises money and receives money from Trump's super PACs, et cetera. And do you think that will be enough?
From a Democratic perspective and strategies that they might use to win this race, it's like, okay, we can focus on converting Republicans, at least in this one election, right? Let's get some of them to cross the aisle and vote for our guy. But you actually don't need to do that, right? What you need to do, I think at a minimum, is convince Republicans to stay home, right? Or feel uncomfortable ticking that box next to Ken Paxton's name due to the type of baggage that he carries around and that everybody seems to associate with him.
And what we've seen so far in Talarico's ads on TV, at least, is him and affordability, him in a pickup truck, two pickup trucks. One I think was a Toyota Tacoma, another was a full-size Ram pickup, and the other with his grandfather on the front porch. What is that televising, in your opinion?
I think he's trying to do a couple of things right now in his ad. So obviously the trucks, you can never have enough trucks. You can never have enough grandpas on the front porch. So I think he's trying to signal to Texans, I am one of you. But I do think what he's trying to do there is counter a bit of this Paxton narrative that Talarico is not a masculine kind of Texas candidate. You heard him obviously talk. You heard Paxton talk about how Talarico is a vegan and calls him tofu Talarico, and Talarico responded, I've been eating barbecue since before your first indictment. So, some of these things are just patently false. But what I think the Paxton campaign is very consciously trying to do is to cast Talarico as an outsider, right? And then I think the other thing that Talarico is trying to do in his ads is try and tie some of Paxton's corruption, which again, at this point is very well documented. He had, people in his own party voting, of course, to impeach him in the Texas legislature, but tying Paxton's corruption to some kind of populist economic policies that seem to be playing pretty well right now nationwide.
Now to the Texas governor's race, which has also seen polls tightening recently. The Cook Political Report shifted the Texas governor's race between Republican Governor Greg Abbott and Democratic State Representative Gina Hinojosa from solid Republican to likely Republican. The Real Clear Politics average of polls shows Abbott leading Hinojosa by 4.4 percentage points, 48.3% to 43.9%. I asked Governor Abbott about it in Fort Worth last Thursday. Today, the Cook Political Report shifted the Texas Senate race to a toss-up, and it shifted your race from solid Republican to likely Republican. Why do you think that is, and why do you think that, do you think that data centers had something to do with that, the whole controversy over it? And what do you say about Gina Hinojosa's new ad accusing you of selling out Texans when it comes to data centers?
So first of all, listen, in the summer 4 years ago when Beto was running against me, we were neck and neck in polls, and that turned out to be a double-digit win. Let me tell you what I'm doing on data centers, because I've actually done more than any governor in the United States of America of providing a detailed, comprehensive structure for data centers in our state.
We asked Hinojosa about it during a campaign stop in Dallas on Friday.
Well, we're gaining momentum. People are hearing my vision for a future, putting aside politics as usual, the partisanship that people are so tired of. And this is a back to basics approach. They like my vision of securing the American dream, that dream that is the promise of this country and this state for sure, that is out of reach for too many working Texans. I am committed. This agenda is all about securing the American dream for the people of Texas.
Abbott has a sizable campaign war chest, and analysts expect him to unleash millions of dollars and blanket the airwaves with ads to get his message out. While Democrats say polls show they have momentum in November, various Republican voters and activists have told me over the summer they don't trust the polls because they believe they are too skewed towards Democrats. Coming up, updates on our big stories last week, including construction that's halted in Big Bend National Park, plus the next chapter of debate over data centers in Texas when Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas comes right back. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. What a difference a week makes. After the uproar we told you about last week involving the Trump administration's border-related construction in Big Bend National Park, the Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Rodney Scott, halted all work temporarily. Video showing contractors using bulldozers angered local residents, Democrats, and a few Republicans. The CBP previously said it is not building a 30-foot border wall or installing stadium lighting in the park, and instead was building a new road, improving existing roads in the park, adding technology, and building some vehicle barriers. Last week, Governor Abbott took credit for the administration's pause on construction, saying he spoke with the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin, a former Republican senator from Oklahoma. The CBP commissioner met with a variety of local elected leaders from Big Bend, among them Terrell County Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland, a Republican who used to patrol this area and who previously worked for the commissioner. I asked him what the commissioner committed to.
Rodney committed to working with the local leaders within Brewster County, within that state park and national park, on what they would like to see done. Again, he wants to make sure the border's secure. We know border security use of technology works. I use it out here in my county on a daily basis, work with Border Patrol on a daily basis. And of course, I spent 26 years with U.S. Border Patrol, and I've worked out in this sector for half of my career out in Sierra Blanca, which is the furthest west station, in Alpine, which encompasses Big Bend National Park, and of course my hometown of Sanderson for the last 11 years of my career. But he committed to working with those community leaders who will get information from whether it's business owners, landowners, as well as other constituents in that county, and willing to hear. So Sheriff Dotson, Sheriff Hennington will work with those local stakeholders, work with CBP in that area, and then Commissioner Scott will review the plan and come up with the either the thumbs up or thumbs down.
He had already said that they're not putting in a 30-foot wall. They're not putting in lighting, right? Stadium lighting, some people have compared that to, right? So that's off the table, right?
It is, Jack. And we were told early on, and again, the way this whole thing came about, Kristi Noem, when she was still the Secretary of Homeland Security, she actually circumvented Rodney with these plans. He had no idea. And again, we've had a friendship and constant communication throughout our careers. She wanted to build that 30-foot barrier from one end of the sector all the way down to Lake Amstead. He curtailed that quite a bit. I still don't think it was enough. We're still looking at some areas outside the parks with a 30-foot barrier, and then down here towards my county of Terrell, with some vehicle barriers. And I'll tell you that there's not a spot in my county that you can cross a vehicle because of the God-made barriers, the cliffs and the walls of the Rio Grande River.
So going back to Big Bend National Park for a second, because that's where
Yes.
all this angst we've seen over the bulldozers, right?
Yes.
So is what they initially said is they were going to put in a new road in there, and they would improve existing roads and then some of these vehicle barriers. Has that changed?
So we haven't got the final word that it's changed, but I'll tell you, Sheriff Dotson spoke to that very well. Judge Hennington of Brewster County brought a map that showed many roads that were going to be created were very close in proximity to existing roads. And when that was articulated to Commissioner Scott, he took that as, well, yes, we will definitely look at that. I'm confident that we will see some of those plans change as far as upgrading the existing roads, because not only is that good for the Park Service, for law enforcement, even for those that come to visit the national park, because some of those roads during the rainy season, the monsoon season, become impassable, and the roads they will construct will be all-weather roads. They're also planning to bury a fiber optic line under those roads that will detect whether it's a car that has crossed the border or somebody walking across the road that may be here illegally. So again, he's committed to exploring those roads, making sure they're not duplicating or just creating a new road that really won't serve any purpose. And I can tell you, there's plenty of roads throughout the park that we've used as Border Patrol agents that give us access to those areas. And I've got to mention, Jack, that Mighty Skull Mountain Road that we saw planned going over the mountain. There's a road just north of that, which Commissioner Scott acknowledged and said, no, something like that definitely makes sense. We're going to look at it and we're going to make this plan better. So again, we have that commitment.
What about the state park? Is the federal government able to go into the state park?
They've committed to the state park the same they have to the national park. So again, I'm confident and we'll take Commissioner Scott at his word.
Some groups have filed lawsuits and emergency injunctions to keep the government from doing construction projects in the national park. Now to the pushback over data centers in Texas, particularly in rural and suburban areas, another issue we've been telling you about for weeks now. Last week, Texans expressed their concerns about data centers during a state legislative committee hearing at the state capitol. Governor Abbott has paused construction on data centers until state regulators can conduct a comprehensive audit on each proposed project, which will take months to complete. Democrat Gina Hinojosa aired an ad in Texas's rural areas criticizing the governor on data centers. She and other Democrats have urged the governor to call lawmakers into a special session, which he has not done. I asked him about it last week. Why not call for a special session as Democrats want you to do? Why not do that on data centers?
As you know, I've requested that the ERCOT as well as for the PUC to gather data. What ERCOT was trying to do was try to make decisions about adding 5 times more power to the grid than what they currently are providing. That obviously is impossible to do. But even worse, the PUC had requested data and information from all power grid operators and all that wanted to add on to the power grid about how much power they would be using, how much water they would be using. And they got less than 10% response. That would be like giving you a 100-piece puzzle and say, fix this puzzle using only 9 pieces. It's impossible to do. So right now it's impossible for ERCOT or the PUC to know exactly what information they need to put the pieces of the puzzle together. That same information is needed by legislators before decisions can be made about the pathway forward. When we get all the information, which will take months, we will be able to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. But here's the important part, Jack, and that is what I have done is working. The guidelines and guardrails that I've established are now universally adopted across the state of Texas. And what that means is there are, for one, no new data centers coming on board. For another, every data center operating in the state of Texas is fully following the guidelines and guardrails that I've established, which are the most comprehensive and detailed of any state in the United States.
The controversy surrounding data centers has become a flashpoint in the November election and promises to be one of the top issues during the next legislative session starting in January. President Trump has said it is important the U.S. stay ahead of China when it comes to the development of AI, artificial intelligence, and of AI data centers. Coming up, the impact of the national debt surpassing $40 trillion when Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas returns. The national debt has more than doubled in less than a decade. Sarah Jenkins has this week's brief.
The U.S. Treasury Department says the national debt has surpassed $40 trillion. That means federal spending has not kept up with revenue, forcing the government to borrow money to cover its expenses. Economists say that net interest costs, roughly $1 trillion, accounted for nearly 14% of the nation's spending. Both the Trump and Biden administrations borrowed heavily to help keep the economy steady during the pandemic. Military funding and the number of people collecting benefits from Social Security and Medicare has increased as the U.S. population ages, driving up spending. And a combination of tax cuts over the last 2 decades has decreased the nation's revenue. The public holds about 80% of the nation's debt, according to the nonpartisan Peterson Foundation. Of that, more than 2/3 is held by domestic lenders, such as mutual funds and the Federal Reserve System, while foreign investors hold the rest. For The Brief, I'm Sarah Jenkins.
All right, thank you, Sarah. And you can watch all our full interviews from today's show. Just go to our CBS Texas YouTube page and look for the Eye on Politics playlist and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. And that's Eye on Politics for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening to you at CBS News Texas. I'll see you next week, and from all of us here, have a great Sunday.